Welcome to Residential Tech Talks. I'm Jeremy Glowacki, Executive Editor of Residential Tech Today. On this week's podcast, Joe Whitaker joins us from St. Louis, Missouri, where for the past week or so, he has been the VP of Business Development for Origin Acoustics. Prior to accepting this new role, Joe was president of Thoughtful Integration, a custom integration firm with locations in Dallas and St. Louis. However, as we learned on my very first podcast back in April 2020, Joe was no stranger to working with Origin, even during his integration days, having assisted the company with product development projects as a consultant. This is not the first time a custom integrator has gone to work for a manufacturer, and I'm sure that it won't be the last. But while the news is still fresh, I thought it would be interesting to learn more about Joe's career move and to find out what he can tell us about his future projects at Origin. Joe Whitaker, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you, Jeremy. It's been since the pandemic. The last time I was on your podcast, I didn't have any facial hair.
That's right.
And
You've done something special there.
It all grew back gray and white. Like it was black before I shaved, and then this came out. So, maybe it aged me a bit, or maybe it was just...
It's been a rough 2 years.
It has. But in that 2 years, a lot of people have found new ways to make success in their businesses, both manufacturers and integrators. And I think it was a wake-up call for all of us in our industry on how important our industry actually is.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been fortunate to be in an industry that was needed and desired. What is done in this industry is desired by homeowners and people stuck in their houses wanting to make them more fun and engaging. So fortunate that our industry could get out there and do this work even during the toughest of the months of the pandemic. So love to catch up on what that process was like since we talked last and all that. But first, just to give like a little bit of a heads up to people who most are going to know Origin Acoustics, having listened to this podcast, watched us, or they're in the industry and of course know the name very well. But just as a little bit of a catch up, Origin is the loudspeaker brand co-founded back in 2014 by Jeremy Burkhart, the former CEO of the once beloved, we'll say, brand Speakercraft. While Jeremy's still very involved with the day-to-day, the company is now run by one of my favorite industry people and Jeremy's cousin, CEO Nick Barry, with another really good guy, Mark Fisher, as president of sales. Geez, Joe, I can't imagine why you'd want to go to work for those guys. It seems like a great place to go be a part of some new ideas. How did this transpire? It's not a huge leap for an integrator to go to work for a manufacturer, but you were doing some great stuff with your day-to-day there. And can you give us a little insight into why you made the switch?
Well, a lot of conversations like over the last year have happened, thinking about, the future and I guess it'd be like 18 months off of the senior board of directors gave me a lot of time to think about, my future, the company at the time, my company's future, where I could make an impact for, integrators, customers. Is the customer segment I'm servicing maybe the wrong fit for me now? Or, all of those kind of things. It was a very interesting, when you're not so busy with the serious stuff, time for because I usually pack every hour of my day. It was time to sit back and reflect a little and really think about where I can be the most effectful and where I can, kind of do the cool things that I do, but on what level was kind of my thought process going into it.
Okay. So you did some prior work, like I mentioned, with Origin. So you're absolutely comfortable with that company. It's not a huge surprise. When I heard this, I'm like, whoa, what's going on? But then, of course, I know your relationship with Origin and with Jeremy Burkhart. What to remind our listeners what you have done with them in the past, kind of refresh the memories on what projects you've worked on.
The big one that was the big, marketing bang at the time was the Valet amplifier, which was, integrating Alexa into a whole home environment, hiding it in the ceiling, putting it in an amp that's inside the rack, actually providing power and audio over a Balun, that's built into it, being able to duck in and out audio based on Alexa actually talking, kind of getting that Tony Stark feel,
Yeah.
from his house in Avengers. And that was one that that was me and Jeremy's baby. That was our patent together. We came up with the idea on the side of a mountain, and then the next thing
That's right.
I was involved in some speakers and some outdoor audio and some amplifiers, and
Okay.
taking a lot of trips up there. On the product side and analyzing, the market and how things were going to play. And then it just kind of, and that kind of grew into like where we are today. I went out there not too long ago, conversation started. And then, when Nick came at me with, hey, this is what I think you should do, and this is what the position I think you should have here at Origin. And really, he's like, you're already family with all of us. This is kind of already a thing. You should take the leap. And talking to a lot of friends, and I do have to say, that on social media, when this announcement came out, I do have to say thank you for everyone who said anything about it or recognized it, because it's a culmination of all those people, all those relationships I've had over all those years, and the thoughts shared and the business shared, and all of that that kind of built that trajectory. It wasn't just a me on my own thing. All these people had a part in that trajectory that went there, because you're right. There are a lot of integrators that do find their way into the manufacturer circle. Chris Ivy, Barry McCorkle, the list goes on and on. Um, but it's not very often that the trajectory just goes up that high that fast. And that's one of those things that I've had questions about. So those are for Nick recognizing that and saying that that's a fit. And for those of you who know Nick, how smart this guy is.
Yeah, he is.
He does not make decisions without full research, doing everything and making it's the right decision for the company. Um, that says a lot for what Origin is doing moving forward. If you guys saw the press release and read what he said, um, filling all those gaps and to fulfill, continue to fulfill for the future for integrators.
Yeah, so when I met with Nick at CEDIA, which was a great opportunity because we don't have a lot of companies unfortunately showing up at CEDIA in September. And then I actually crossed paths with him again up in Chicago on the Crestron trip because Crestron and Origin are in kind of a partnership developing in-wall landscape speakers there. So might lead to what some of the things you're going to be working on too there. But we talked at length at both stops, and I really saw how the product line was rounding into shape, and it was beyond the first year of the company where it was in ceiling speakers, and now it's sound bars, home cinema, outdoor acquisitions, partnerships, co-developing, all that stuff. I can only imagine what a business development role could entail for you. How was it pitched to you when you talked to Nick? It's not a product development role; it's a business development role. So you're building relationships and that type of thing. How's that work?
Well, okay, yes and no at the same time, because Nick, he is a professional businessman. He is an MBA. I mean, that's his background, and to him, and it's one of the things I think is unique about Origin Acoustics, is yes, a typical business development person is on the thing you just said, and a lot of those things, which I have a talent for, but that company looks at business from top to bottom. You do have to have a compelling product with a story and great features and just an amazing product, and the story and the conversation can go from there, but you can't do any of those things without that amazing product. So I will still 100% be involved in product development. It's funny you say the restaurant thing. That is on my list. And I'm excited about that because I know a lot of those guys, and I served on CD's board with Clancy. So
Mm-hmm.
the rapport was there well before I walked in the door. So of course, I got excited about that. To get to work with all those guys again. But you look at what a real typical real business development person is, right? They're developing and sustaining those solid relationships with companies, stakeholders, and the customers. So it's that whole thing. These are things I've always done anyways, whether I was at Cedia, whether I was, within my own company, developing products for Origin Acoustics or other manufacturers that I've worked with.
Yeah.
That's kind of that whole thing. And then, being able to, which I've always enjoyed, one of my favorite things was actually analyzing that customer feedback and figuring out if is a customer really satisfied with the product, with the company, with the services, with the education, and then how can we turn and cater that? If they're not satisfied, how can we fix it? But during that conversation, we'll find something that they might not know they need yet. That's always been the fun thing for me, especially, this goes back to product development too, because that's usually the way I look at products is I look for those gaps, fill the gaps of the things we need. And that, those last things is on the product side, which was the first thing you said, is, providing that insight, that gathered intel into product development to create those compelling products. So when you really look at business development, it's not just about, although, I love emerging markets and ones that touch, and that's one of my things. But when you really look at it, it's all of that. That's really what business development is to be able to take that whole ball of wax and find those gaps, fill them, find the compelling things that, the customers want.
Yeah, I think it sounds like it's interesting because you've got the ability to really think about it as an integrator, as an integration business owner. You got to get while the iron's hot here, and you're still that kind of mindset. You'll probably get away from it as you
Oh,
continue
no,
to
no,
work
never.
for Origin. Okay, well, so you've got someone like Nick who admittedly never worked as an integrator. He's a business guy. And to get like that perspective from an employee, and I'm sure there are other employees in the company that are former integrators too, but that role that you're going to play where you've got his ear, that's got to be key to him sort of filling out the line and being able to communicate with the integrators and know what in the field needs to be, changed or added to and that type of thing. It seems like that would be a really good insight to be able to provide for them.
And, that was one of Nick's really big things is, and this is a thing with a lot of manufacturers, especially today, kind of with the CD, a perfect example, right? There's not a lot of face-to-face. There's not a lot of that going on for the last 2 years. That kind of feedback has been scarce for manufacturers overall for everybody. But I think what Nick may have seen as the win-win, kind of alluded to, didn't say this outright, but I think what was alluded to is just my experience. I was fortunate and lucky that, when I've been an integrator for 20 something years, owned businesses, have worked with manufacturers, and then all the different stuff that I was kind of thrown in with Cedia's rebranding, global alignment, the new strategy, all these things on the global landscape. It was, I just got, I think it's funny that I just happen to have been in the right places at the right time to pick up the correct amount of skills to be the person that Nick wanted to fill that spot. Some of that stuff really was, I just happened to be there at the right time to pick up those skills or learn that segment. But it was just kind of that mixture of being able to be the integrator or throw on a suit and sit down in those, investor meetings, or it was just a mishmash of stuff.
Right. Well, I will continue my conversation with Joe Whitaker after the break.
Did you know that 34% of broadband households are concerned about the air quality inside of their homes? Parks Associates' new quantified consumer study, Fresh Air, Air Quality and Comfort in the Smart Home, addresses consumer concern regarding indoor air quality as well as interest in air quality products and services. Our research of 10,000 broadband households finds that about 20% of broadband households are likely to purchase a smart climate or indoor air quality device in the next 6 months. This new consumer analysis quantifies concerns, perception of product value, and purchase intentions. For more information on fresh air, air quality, and comfort in the smart home, contact sales at parksassociates.com.
Welcome back. We're talking with Origin Acoustics VP of Business Development, Joe Whitaker. Joe, we really kind of got to the heart of your role at Origin, and as that is going to develop, I wanted to touch back on something you mentioned early in the conversation about leaving integration and how you weren't sure if the customer was the kind of customer that you really were into having. Whatever, I forget the way you phrased that. I don't want to put words in your mouth and make it sound bad.
Close enough.
What changed for you as far as the way what you enjoyed about working in custom integration, and why you felt like maybe this was the time to get into the manufacturing side?
Well, the company itself is successful in its own right, and we read articles and people do podcasts, and people in other industries and our industries try to teach us about this magic set of words called an exit strategy. But the thing is for people like me that's really passionate about our industry, really believe in it, and have done this forever, that's a word we don't ever want to think about. We're like, I want to do this forever. Like retirement is stupid. And then, you start getting a little older, and, things in life change, and you really start asking yourself, where's my value at really out there? Right. Because every integrator goes through this if they've been around for a while, some of the guys out there that have been around, and they've run out of challenges. It's just a cable. It's just a speaker. It's just an HDMI. It's just a network. It's just I design another blah, blah, blah. It becomes, there's a point where the repetition without the lack of advancement starts taking away the passion.
Right.
Then it becomes just about, now I'm just a businessman. That's absolutely not what I want to be. That all of a sudden sounds really boring. Those who know me and have known me for a long time know that I like to get out in the field. Like desk time, or at least I want to tinker. My hands need to be involved in something. And, the more and more, the business grows and things change, the more I looked at, okay, I know what my passions are. I know what I like to do. Maybe this isn't the right fit for my happiness anymore. Not going to say the money wasn't great. I mean, especially now. I mean, right now, our industry is booming. Everybody's looking for new people and having to turn down jobs. I mean, but at some point you really have to look at, what's important to you, your family, what are you passionate about? And sometimes change is really good.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. That's a really mature point of view. And I don't think it happens as often where someone leaves willingly. You'd made the choice to leave. There were plenty of folks who would make that change to working for a manufacturer who their company had gone under, during a rough spot in the economy or something like that. So to just decide, hey, this is not the challenge that it used to be for me. I want something more fulfilling. That's a fresh.
And having said that, the company itself, it is going to go on. I mean, my business partner that I started it with, there was a friend long before we started the company, Steve Siegel. He is now full owner. He's taken my CEO and president position. And from the outside, customer facing, it will not look any different. I mean, the company has matured to that step where it is its thing now. It's like it's its own force. And
now, were you in separate locations? I forget. If that,
Dallas and St. Louis. He's going to handle the full boat. So there will most likely be some changes in St. Louis. But the thing with our company, though, has always been, we didn't only just serve, Dallas and St. Louis. I mean, we do hospitality and commercial work in Bloomington, Indiana.
Yeah, I
We were
remember
working
hearing
on
about
that
that.
big project, and then
Hmm.
the guys who own, gosh, what is that? Landry Seafood.
Hmm.
They own aquariums around the U.S., and the guys have went and done the aquarium in Denver because it's owned by Landry's, which is the weirdest thing that a seafood place owns an aquarium. I'm like, guys,
That
is
is
that
odd.
where the fish are coming from? Tell the truth. Those are not from the ocean.
Right.
But we've always been I don't want to say out of our territories, but a no boundaries company. I mean,
Okay.
I've been that way for, gosh, 15 years. So the fact of it being able to move on and continue is, I have no doubts. I have full faith.
That's great.
And
Yeah.
they'll
No,
be getting a
that
bunch
you.
more awards, I'm sure.
Right. What are your? Can you say what you might miss about being in integration? It's really early in this process, obviously, so you may just not even look back at this point. But do you think there'll be anything you kind of just? I did like that part of the job. I'm sorry, I'm moving on from that part.
There are a couple because I've given this a lot of thought, and just over like this last week, um, some of it is really kind of like hit right in the right in the gut. Um, more than anything, although not all of them, but the people and the relationships built. Um, some customers, clients have ended up becoming lifetime friends. Um,
Right.
and that is one of the things. Like I said, not all of them, but
Right. Of course.
there have been some that I mean, some I got a text from earlier today, 12 years as a client.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
and he actually is Sarah's doctor too now.
Hmm.
So I mean, there's that's one of the big things is those people and those relationships, because that's one of the things that makes our trade unique is the carpenters come in and put up the framing, and the drywallers do their thing, and the painters do their thing, and floor guys do their thing, and they're gone. They don't even talk to the customer. um, as an integrator, you become part of their life because you're building things they use in their lifestyle. It's one hand fits the other. I mean, it's the biggest that ever. And that in most cases almost makes you become an extension of their family, because
Mm,
you are, cheering them up when they're sad. You are, bringing joy to their life where they're cooking. You are, you're bringing the entertainment to them when they're out at the pool or deck or whatever the case may be around the fire pit. Um, that emotional response goes two ways. You kind of grow together. I've got a
yeah.
client that I remember, his kid, tiny kids going off to college now. I mean, it's
Mm,
like, and we still
yeah.
talk. So, that's one of the big things. Um, and one of the other things, and this is kind of, I talk about it. We'll see how it turns out. But how a lot of people in manufacturers, they do dealer visits, integrator visits, and of course, I plan on doing this. That's like I have to. Um,
Yeah.
I don't feel that I'm going to do the typical, let me go sit in your office for 2 hours. We're going to chat about products. We're going to look through, what's in your pipeline. We're going to do all those things that people have done to me for 20 years.
Yeah.
I will sit down. I'll give you 45 minutes of that. Then I'm going to
Right.
go out in the field with your guys, and I'm going to pick up a crimper. I'm going to terminate some wire with them. I'm going to pull some wire with them. I'm going to put some speakers
Mm,
in with them. I'm going to hang a TV with them. May even do some programming with them.
yeah.
Let me feel those guys. What are
Right.
their
Right.
needs? Where are their problems at? How can they be more efficient? And then I can
Hmm.
take that in the 30 minutes that I sat with you in the office, and we can build business around that, because
Right.
that's the whole circle of it. The guy sits in the office, they design, they bill, and the guys go out and they do the thing. Well, sometimes there's a disconnect there, and there are ways
Right.
to make that total flow more efficient. So when you talk about getting on the field, yeah, I plan on it still, but with other companies.
Hmm.
Go lend a little advice and teach them a little something, and hopefully learn some stuff they're doing, because a lot of people in different regions do things differently. So
Yeah.
I there's some things that a person in my position normally wouldn't do that I want to do, because I do feel
Yeah.
it's the right thing to do.
I think that sounds cool. And on the other end of the spectrum, I'm sure there are things that you're just going to absolutely not miss. And I know you mentioned that you were kind of getting to where it was like kind of a routine or whatever. So
Mhm.
that's a more of a broad sort of general comment about it. But is there something that you're just like, God, so glad I don't have to do that part anymore because now I'm working for a manufacturer?
Hand cutting speakers through drywall overhead. Boom, done.
Ah,
Mic drop. I am tired of drywall falling in my face and down my shirt. I mean, that's just
okay.
well, the one of the things that, I mean, every business owner goes through this. Um, that's one of them. There's some of those field things that you're just glad to step away from. But on the business side, one of the things that I'm so glad to just walk away from is having to be the bill collector. Because we've all had those customers that,
Oh,
you sent the invoice. Oh, it's in the mail. Oh, I paid it. I thought I paid it online. I must have not clicked next or whatever the case is. Those are always uncomfortable conversations. And of course, they always end up paying, just never when you want
yeah.
them to. Or, in times of need during the pandemic when it was so wishy washy, sometimes you had to close some of those out. And people
Mm,
were scared to pay at that time. They didn't know if they were going to wake up and have a job in the morning or if their bar or restaurant or hotel was going to still be open next week. Um,
right.
that's one of the things that I definitely will not miss because that's really the one time where, as a business owner, you have to be the bad guy.
Right.
And for me, that's never a comfortable feeling.
Yeah.
The other thing, all business owners, you're going to appreciate this, and this is probably going to light social media on fire. But I know you all hate the guy who goes, "I found it cheaper online."
Hmm.
That's nails in the chalkboard to me. I'm glad that's
Hmm.
one of those
Sure.
lines that glad I don't have to hear again. And Origin Acoustics stuff is not online, so I don't have to hear it from dealers either.
Right. Are you do you feel like sort of focused on the audio side of the business exclusively with Origin is going to leave out certain components of the industry technologies that you enjoyed working with, or is it all connected so much that it still kind of plays into your role?
Well, when it comes to like products, I've worked on HDMI and I've worked on networks and I've worked on a lot of other things. You're right. Um, and most of the concentration at Origin is audio. But if you look at some of the moves they've made, maybe in the past 16, 18 months, um, you know, solidifying a partnership with Crestron,
Yeah.
the Bang& Olufsen thing, there's all these other moving parts, and you're starting to see the way the market itself is changing. There are very few one-trick ponies anymore, unless they're super high end. Cat can just stay Cat and only do that,
Hmm.
and Purcell can only do that because in the luxury market you can be extreme niche down to a screw. Um, in mid luxury and kind of going into luxury, you kind of can't anymore. And you've seen that, that the progression of Origin over the years, adding landscape speakers, adding sound bars, now getting into the pro audio side, which of course I'm super excited about because Resomercial was one of my favorite things in my back pocket that I absolutely love doing. They
Hmm.
just introduced new pendants, fire rated back box that's retrofittable. That just got announced, gosh, I don't know, maybe this week. Um,
Yeah.
so they are expanding that horizon and what their offerings
Hmm.
are, but in a very meticulous and analyzed way. What are the things that integrators actually need? Do they need another, whatever the case may be? Do they need
Hmm.
another HDMI extender? Absolutely not. There's already way too many of them. Let's not make
Right.
one of those. But there are a lot of other, either they need it or they need innovation or something better than what they currently have. And those are the things that Origin Acoustics has always looked at since before they opened their doors, with the zip clip bayonet ring for speakers.
Right.
That's been their mission since the beginning. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so for me, not so much, because I'm getting
Yeah.
not only my normal day to day with them is what's going on now, but being able to look at what's emerging, what's coming up, where are the touch points, and can we actually be effective and beneficial to our customers, to our dealers. So you never know what might fit,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean the staff at Origin is so deep in talent. I mean, the sky is pretty much the limit, and with the partnerships they have, it's really there is no limit.
So it seems like from the way you describe it that you'll be spending some time on the road meeting with dealers. I'm sure you'll be in Las Vegas meeting at Origin headquarters from time to time, but none of that has to happen. We're all so virtual these days. But how do you see what can the dealers out there expect from you as far as where you're going to be and where they'll hear from you
They can start emailing
more
me and send
recently?
me invites now. No, I'm joking. Don't do that. You're going to
Yeah.
flood my inbox. No, actually, they can. If you're an Origin dealer and you want to visit sometime, just give me a holler. But the ones that are kind of on deck are going to be who's best suited for what region. But I can say I will, if you're a ProSource member, Origin Acoustics dealer, go to the ProSource thing next month in Vegas. I will be there with the rest of
Mm,
the team, because everybody knows ProSource is also something else that's near and dear to my heart. So that's definitely one that I'm going to be there, to support what's going on, support the dealers. And then it will be CD, of course, you're going to see me there.
mhm.
It'll be, where, which is one of the things I do love about Nick and Mark Fisher, because he's so good at what he does. Um, it allows a lot of other people the time to concentrate on specific things. So I will be where needed, in those kind
Yeah,
of things, because there is a lot that has already been kind of assigned and put on my plate. But there are times like ProSource and Cedia and some other events, tech summits, that'll be a have to. But when it comes to dealer visits, I've already got some that I know I'm going to,
okay.
Breezemeisters. They'll actually see me on the 15th at lunch.
Okay.
Because those guys, great company,
Lo-
Origin
Local
Acoustics,
for you.
local for me. Um, it's that's a convenient portion of it.
Yeah.
But it's one of those. Where am I needed? Is kind of the good answer for that.
Sure. Sure. Well, hey, Joe, best of luck with the new role. It's going to be exciting, I know, for you. And I hope you have a great 2022 and beyond. So thanks so much for taking the time out and chatting with us about the new job.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeremy. It's always great to be here with you.
Joe Whitaker is the VP of Business Development at Origin Acoustics. You can learn more about the brand at originacoustics.com and find Joe on just about every social media outlet. That wraps up today's show. If you're new to Residential Tech Talks, please subscribe to the weekly podcast on your preferred platform and consider rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcast. Also, check out all the latest residential tech news at the magazine's website, restechtoday.com, where you can also subscribe to the bi-monthly print or digital magazine and to our Tuesday and Friday email newsletters. Until next time, please stay safe, stay inspired, and let us know if you have a great story to tell.
Residential Tech Talk, lighting specialist, residential tech talk.